What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. This edition of the podcast is a weekend primer. I'm your host, Steve Hartman, and we have an absolutely packed slate of hoops ahead of us this weekend. We're talking NBA Cup in Vegas. The Timberwolves have a couple games. We have big-time games this weekend in college basketball. And then there's some great high school basketball this weekend, starting tonight on Friday night. So with that, let's get into it. It is the NBA Cup semifinals live from Las Vegas, and as we all know, with the NBA Cup, there's big-time payouts for these players, so the stakes are high. First up on Saturday, we have Knicks and Magic, 4:30 p.m. Central. The Knicks, the veteran team, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, against the younger Orlando Magic, kind of the up-and-coming Magic, who going into the year, I think a lot of people were thinking this might be a chance to steal a NBA Finals bid for the Magic, being that the Pacers are banged up, the Celtics are banged up and lost their size. Right now, the Vegas line has the Knicks at -4.5. Without Franz Wagner for the Magic, it's tough for me to see them stealing this one. But speaking of steals, watch out for Jalen Suggs, Minnehaha Academy's own. He's averaging almost 2 steals a game along with his double-digit points production. I'm going to take the Knicks to handle business here. I just think the Knicks are, in the East, probably the cream of the crop. In the nightcap, we have a super intriguing game. The second semifinal features San Antonio and OKC. Again, kind of a similar storyline where you got the up-and-coming Spurs, even without Victor Wembanyama, going up against the quote-unquote veteran team of the Thunder. Even though they're not super old, they have experience. They are the defending champs. They are on pace to be one of, if not the greatest team, or at least have the greatest season in NBA history. Again, without Wembanyama, Spurs are a little shorthanded. I love Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper and Jeremy Sohan, and what Luke Cornett does. Doesn't show up always on the stat sheet, but I love the way he plays as well. I think the Spurs cover. I think the line is 9.5 is what I've seen. I think the Spurs can cover that, but I got OKC winning maybe like a 7 or 8 point game in that one, which will put together a NBA Cup final of Knicks and Thunder, which could be an NBA Finals preview. Super interesting. Anything else would also be interesting for multiple reasons. Either the Spurs beat the Thunder, which would be a shocker, and the Thunder's only their second loss, or it could be the Magic and the Thunder, which would be also a little bit intriguing just from a defensive standpoint. The Magic are really good defensively. The Thunder are really good defensively. So either way, the NBA Cup Finals, NBA Cup semifinals should be pretty fun watching for those who are into the NBA. Now let's talk about the Timberwolves and their huge weekend slate. So they've lost Monday against the Suns. So it's Friday the 12th as I'm recording. The Wolves are in San Francisco to take on the Warriors at 9 p.m. Central. Huge game for both teams, really. The Wolves trying to hold on to their 6th seed spot. They're coming off that loss of the Suns. Again, having a tough time beating Phoenix this year. The Warriors are hanging around that play-in picture. They're at 13-12 right now. They haven't had Curry for a couple weeks. Warriors by 1.5 is the line I saw. Steph Curry is expected to return tonight from a quad injury. But no Draymond Green, no Al Horford for the Warriors. So the Wolves really need Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert to play well. I mean, I don't even know if they have to dominate, but they need to play well. Naz and Julius need to make their shots. Rudy needs to dominate on the glass without any size for the Warriors, really. The Timberwolves are 12-0 when Jalen Clark has played more than 14 minutes. That's an interesting nugget. As you all know, I've been harping on that. Clark's got to play. So maybe he's the guy that comes in and guards Curry for a few minutes when McDaniels needs a break. So keep an eye on that matchup tonight. Sunday, the Wolves come home to take on the Kings. It feels like they play the Kings every other day. This will actually be the 4th matchup with the Kings this season. The Wolves are 2-1 with that lone loss being a brutal loss out in Sacramento where they gave up that fourth quarter lead and ended up losing in overtime. So the Wolves Really need to play well tonight against a shorthanded Warriors team. Get that win, come home on Sunday, take care of business against the Kings. And if they can do that and just maintain where they're at, top 6 in the West, that's really important to stay out of that play-in round. But they also just need to continue to play well and do these little things and continue to evolve. The other day I mentioned in Instagram about the Jaden McDaniels resurrection of his offense and how he was, ranking high in the NBA in three-point percentage. So again, having another scorer out there when you need it is huge for the Wolves. So I'll be watching Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Clark this weekend really closely. All right, pivoting to college, let's talk about some of the key games this weekend. The non-conference schedule continues to heat up. November and December have provided tons of great games and great matchups, but there's some big prove-it games this weekend. Let's start in the Big Ten. Nebraska, undefeated Nebraska at Illinois. This is the big one. Nebraska just completely demolished Wisconsin the other night by 30 points. Their defense looked outstanding. Their movement on offense is fantastic. Having Rank Mast back to have a skilled big man is huge for them. But going into Champaign at Illinois, that's going to be a whole nother challenge for them. KenPom has Illinois at -8 right now, expected 82-74. And it really comes down to style of play. Can Illinois and their big guards, Stojakovic, Kylan Boswell, and all their big guys, can they beat up Nebraska? Sam Hoiberg, love him, feisty little point guard, great college point guard, but this is a different challenge just from a size and length standpoint. Illinois has the bodies to make life really tough for them. Rank Mast, as great and skilled as he is for a big guy, Illinois has those guys as well. So I don't know that Nebraska wins this one. I think going on the road in the Big Ten, as a few teams have found out already, is going to be really tough. But if Nebraska keeps this under an 8-point win for Illinois, I think that's really encouraging for Husker fans. But I do think Illinois wins this one at home. Another really intriguing matchup is in the Big 12 and the SEC. Arkansas at Texas Tech, playing a neutral game in Dallas. Obviously, there's a Texas Tech lean in the crowd there. But Arkansas, after a little bumpy start, they lost to Michigan State. They barely beat Samford and Winthrop at home. But they did get that ranked win versus Louisville. John Calipari, I think, is going to get this group going. I picked the Razorbacks kind of as my dark horse in the SEC. And Saturday is a big game to prove that. The matchups I'm watching here are JT Toppin versus Trevon Brazile and Nick Pringle. JT Toppin is one of the best post players in the country. He's preseason All-American. I feel like it's kind of been lost the last few weeks with Michigan's front court and Arizona's dominance. But JT Toppin's still one of the best inside players in the country. Arkansas's got some length, and they got some big guys that can handle him. So that'll be an interesting game. On the perimeter, Red Raider sophomore Christian Anderson versus freshman Razorback Darius Acuff Jr. I love that matchup. Christian Anderson, one of the better scorers in the country, and Darius Acuff has tons of potential. So this is going to be a great matchup. This is a big game for both of these teams to kind of get momentum going into their conference seasons. On the mid-major side, a couple of really interesting games as well. Illinois State at Utah State in Salt Lake City. Shout out to the North Dakota boys. Illinois State is 8-2 and making a run for the Missouri Valley title, but they are recently led by freshman Mason Clabo, who is North Dakota's all-time leading scorer. He's averaging 16.5 points in his last 2 games. And then Jamestown native Bowden Skunberg, former NDSU player, is chipping in over 10 points a game for the Redbirds. And they're visiting Utah State at the Delta Center, so technically I think that's a neutral site game. Obviously, Utah State has the home advantage there with the fans. The Aggies are 8-1. They're a traditional NCAA tournament team the last few years. They're sitting at 41st in KenPom, which is very much at-large bid territory, even if they were to slip up in the Mountain West. Huge mid-major game with 2 of the best mid-major teams in the country. Another Missouri Valley team, traditionally very strong, is Drake. They are hosting Summit League contenders North Dakota State in Des Moines. Drake isn't quite as good as they were last year with Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts, but new head coach Eric Henderson knows the Bison well. Henderson, from South Dakota State from 2019 to 2025. NDSU's defense, very consistent, very solid. They don't foul. Drake's ball security, they don't turn it over a whole lot. Something's got to give there. We'll see how that one pans out. It's always tough to go on the road and win a game at Drake. So I give the slight edge to Drake here, but I know NDSU is going to give them a great game. And then lastly, just kind of a mix of mid-major power conference teams that I think is interesting. So Florida 5-4, schedule's been brutal, but at some point they have to start winning some games. George Washington is a solid Atlantic 10 team. If this is close, I would be worried in Gainesville. I expect Florida to right the ship and dominate this game, but they really need to start rolling before they get into SEC play come January 2nd when they play Missouri. So this is a big game for both teams, but specifically Florida. Finally, I want to talk about Minnesota Prep Hoops. The gyms, the high school gyms are packed this weekend. There's a lot of really fun games. Friday night, December 12th. I'm heading out to watch the West Central girls play at Melrose. Excited to see my nieces play and the defending Class A champion West Central girls. In boys action tonight, Pillager at number 6, 1A Henning. Pillager has looked really good in 2 wins. Henning is ranked 6th, and they have kind of dominated their early schedule. This is a litmus test for both of those teams. And then the other matchup Friday night that looks interesting to me is Cannon Falls at number 3, 2A Goodhue. Again, both teams undefeated. Goodhue coming off a great football season, highly ranked, but Cannon Falls always competitive in that part of the state. Saturday, huge games across the state, across the different classes. The main event, Wayzata at Cretin-Durham Hall, rematch of last year's 4A state title game. Number 1 Wayzata, number 4 Cretin. There's 4 D1 commits on the floor. Get your popcorn ready. That one is in St. Paul. Another interesting game, undefeated Egan at Minnetonka. Noon tip-off. Coach Kevin McKenzie takes his Egan squad into Minnetonka. Minnetonka a little bit down this year, but always a test in these 4A games when you go on the road. Another heavyweight matchup, Hopkins at Totino Grace. Hopkins still without Jaden Moore, I believe, but you can't sleep on Hopkins even without him. Totino Grace, tons of players. I expect Totino Grace to win that one, actually, and give Hopkins their first loss of the year. Note Hopkins Tartan will be resumed on Tuesday at 60-50 with like 9.5 minutes to go. So we'll see how that finishes up from their weekend suspension. Number 3 in 3A, Mankato East just took their first loss Thursday. So they're going to be hungry, but they go to number 6 Johnson. Johnson's only played 1 game, big win. There could be a little bit of still figuring things out for Johnson. We'll see. Can they match East's intensity? I think Johnson wins that one. Morse area versus Dawson Boyd. The Tigers just upset Montevideo, who was the number 2 team in 2A, and now they go to Dawson Boyd, another trip south to face the number 5 single A Dawson Boyd team. Can Morse take down 2 ranked teams in a week? We'll see. And then my last high school game to watch over the weekend is Matamidi at Sartell. Sartell hung tough with state-ranked 4A Alexandria losing by 10. Matamidi is number 5 in 3A. Don't be surprised if this one goes down to the wire. This should be an outstanding game on the weekend. So that is your weekend watch list. If you're looking for me, I'll be at the Chanhassen Winter Storm Classic Sunday with some 6th grade boys basketball. Otherwise, enjoy the game. Subscribe to the pod. Tell your friends. This is Steve Hartman. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening.
Bagging that bag.